Welcome to Grace Today, a daily blog designed to encourage you and equip you with the Word of God. Let's begin.
All right, well, today we're looking at the book of Judges. The book of Judges is truly an amazing book, and it's really easy to understand. In fact, to understand the book of Judges, all you have to really understand is the repeated refrain that there was no king in Israel and everyone did what was right in their own eyes. That really sums up the book of Judges well. The book of Judges reveals the idolatry and wickedness of Israel that results from their failure to follow Yahweh as their king. You see, the verse doesn't say there was no king in Israel, so everyone did what Yahweh told them to. Instead, it says they did what was right in their own eyes. And so what you have in the book of Judges is this incredible picture of how sin and idolatry can bring a nation low. How do we understand this as we go through it? How do we outline it? Well, I would break it into three parts. In the first part, chapters 1 and 2, you kind of have a general disobedience. And you see that initially in the fact that they don't complete the conquest. Even though they had gone in, even though God had given them victories, they don't complete the conquest. They don't push out the Canaanites completely. They don't do what God has called them to do. And he really called them to do that in their own protection. He calls them to take out the people completely so that their pagan gods would not influence Israel. But they're disobedient. They don't complete the conquest. And so immediately they fall into this idolatry. That all happens in the first two chapters. And then chapters 3 through 16 begin this repeated cycle of sin in the judges. And you have all the judges there: Othniel, Ehud, Deborah, Gideon, Abimelech, Jephthah, Samson. But really what you see is this cycle. And it's a repeat of chapters 1 through 2. The people are blessed by God. They grow complacent. They fall into idolatry and wickedness. They do evil. And you see this repeated refrain. The people again did evil in the sight of the Lord. That's a key theme in the book, is them doing evil in the sight of the Lord. They do that. God brings in an outside nation, an outside people to oppress them as a form of judgment upon them. Eventually, they cry out to the Lord, and he raises up a judge to deliver them. But the judges themselves keep getting worse and worse as this cycle repeats itself over and over again. You see that in chapters 3 through 16. And then chapters 17 through 21, you just see complete disobedience. You see immorality and idolatry abounding in the nation, which really sets us up for the last of the judges, Samuel, who will, of course, usher in the kingdom and the monarchy in Israel. But this book, in some ways, is kind of a setup for that. It's showing us how the people ended up with a king and ultimately ended up with the Davidic covenant and ultimately points us to the King of Kings. But we see that through this cycle of sin. So what are the redemptive texts in this book? Well, I would say it is that cycle of sin. It's that repeated cycle of sin that shows us God's faithfulness both in judgment and in deliverance. He had told the people that if they disobeyed him, when they got into the land, they would receive judgment. And he's faithful in that. He had also told the people that if they would call on him and trust in him, he would deliver them from the hands of their enemies. And he's faithful in that. And we see that over and over again in the book of Judges. What that cycle of sin also shows us is that no man is capable of truly being a deliverer of God's people. Though these judges do deliver them in a temporary sense, do deliver them in a physical sense, they continue to decline as the nation continues to decline. And that really points us to the ultimate need of the book. A true king who would be a king unlike any other, who would be the King of Kings, a true deliverer who would deliver and reign over them. They had rejected Yahweh as their king. Instead, they did what was right in their own eyes. They received God's faithful judgment on them. And even these temporary deliverances, when they call out on him, show the need for the great deliverer. And that's how we can look at the book of Judges in its historical context and point to Christ. The book of Judges, through this cycle of sin, points us to our need for an ultimate deliverer. And so in that sense, it can be a highly evangelistic book, because we could take people through the book of Judges and then we can ask them to compare it to their own lives, and they'll see that they have had these times when they've fallen into sin and they've called out to God for deliverance and he's given them some relief, but then they fall back into that sin again, because ultimately we don't need temporary relief from our consequences. We need a deliverer from the ultimate consequences of sin. You see, friends, the book of Judges is a great book for evangelism when you understand it correctly. I hope this encourages you today, friend. I love you, Grace Community, and I'm praying for you. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to the Grace Today vlog. For more information on Grace Community Baptist Church in Elgin, Texas, or how you can support this ministry, check out the links in the description below. See you tomorrow.